Hello and welcome. This is Lisa Jones, and you are listening to the Exploring Death podcast. Hey, it's Lisa Jones from the Exploring Death podcast, and I am here today at the International Association of Near-Death Studies with my guest, Chris Batts. And he has been a presenter here, and he was a presenter last year as well at the conference, and he's written a new book with the title of Boom, and he's going to talk more about that as we go on to our discussion. But so one of the biggest things that you were talking about is your connection with the higher beings in your out-of-body experience. But I also want to start with your childhood and kind of how this all began. So can you kind of start at the beginning for us?
Sure. I was 6 months old when I was thrown in a dumpster by my mother. And that's when I think that's basically the root of the depression that I had. And that's what I'm a suicide survivor. And it came from depression. And that rejection from 6 months old, I felt like rejection all my life. So, I mean, I was in foster systems and I didn't have the family that cares about you. I was always like from home to home to home. And I was always like fighting with the older kids and stuff like that. So I always had like a chip on my shoulder and something to prove. Then at school, I was always shorter than all the other kids. They were taller than me. So it's more like I always felt like angry and like had a chip on my shoulder. Eventually, all that fighting at school turned into depression. And instead of hurting other people, I just rather hurt myself. So at 8 years old, actually, I started cutting myself for the first time. And that didn't work, and I was devastated about it. So
Can I just ask you, so what did you think the cutting was going to do for you?
I thought I was going to die because I heard people talk about it. So it didn't work. It just stung every time I took a shower or washed my hands. So I was like, this is not the way to go. Okay, so I'll find a new way. So it took years and years. I still had on my mind suicide. Like, I'm going to get out of here one of these days. So years and years. Up until I was in high school, I was very popular, so the suicide thoughts went away, like, completely. Mm-hmm. After high school, they came back. So I just basically, when I was like around 21 or something like that, I came to a decision that I'm going to plan my suicide. I would tell people about it, but they didn't really get it. They say, oh, you're weak, or because I'm from the inner cities, so it's like you're weak if you want to kill yourself. Like, showing emotions, that's not what you do. And so I planned it, and it took about 5 years to plan. So I came up with the perfect plan. And I was talking about it for a while to people, and then I just got to a point where I said, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm planning it. So I planned it. I was supposed to jump in front of a railroad track and just lay there, and I timed the times it comes, the days it comes. So I was supposed to lay under that on that track, so when it came, boom, I was gone.
That's the title of your book?
No, actually,
Okay.
The title Boom came from my experience, which, okay, when I
Go
killed,
ahead.
yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean
okay,
to jump you up.
no, it's okay, it's okay. So I was about 26 when I was walking to the railroad tracks, and a friend of mine knew what I was gonna do. They came, they stopped the car and said, "Get in." So that plan was ruined. After years and years of planning this, it was ruined. I happened to be talking to my mom, ironically, the very exact moment. She calls me, and I haven't talked to my mother in like about 10 years or 15 years since then. So she tells me, I'm not your mother. I never wanted you. I never did want you. And don't claim me as your mother. If you have grandkids, don't tell them that you have a grandma, because they don't. So that 6-month-old event kind of went back in my head. So being suicidal already, I looked at my friend in the passenger side, and I said, F this, rolled down the window, tossed it out, and I just opened the door and jumped out. Hitting the back of my head on the concrete, that's when I heard this boom sound, and that's where the boom came from my book.
Oh my gosh, my whole body is chilling as you're recounting the story.
So that's where the boom came from, because it was like this muffled sound in the back of my head on the concrete, like boom. And so I tried to get up, but I heard somebody telling me I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'm hard-headed, so I did it anyway, and I was feeling myself yanking myself out of my body. So I looked at my body laying on the floor saying, how am I here and I'm standing up at the same time. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go home and walk. I took a few steps, then I'm midair, and that's when I am in this black void, not like black, but like black, white, bluish type void. Like the color is hard to explain. And that's when I felt God, like source, actually come to me and say, I love you, um, you know, and yeah, I love you. And then I'm just like, okay, well, he's like, I want you to go back. So I'm like, if I'm supposed to go back, what am I supposed to tell people so they won't say I'm crazy? Then he's like, well, I'm like, how do I explain you when people ask, or how is God? So all I got was, go and tell everyone that I love them. And that was it. The next thing you know, he asked me if I wanted to meet my guardian angels. I said no, because I didn't believe in that stuff. And he's like, you got to go back, tell everybody I love them. I'll go to the end of the world so everyone's with me. That's what he said. So next thing you know, I'm midair. And I didn't see God's presence. I felt it. But when I actually like the snap came, and that's when I just see all these like beings, like angels and stuff like that. But out of all these angels, there were two that were, one on this side, one on my other side, and it seemed like I just knew them forever. Like I recognized who they were. I seen these ones. So this one was like the bad cop. He was stern, and he asked me, are you sure you want to go? And I'm like, this one's kind of mean. So I looked to this one. This one was buff, like huge. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's even worse. He's going to like kill me because I sinned. I'm going to go to burn for eternity. But this one was like such a compassionate being. And he says, you have a lot to do for so many people. I didn't get it then, but I get it now. And after that, they both were telling me they love me. They need me to go back, but they didn't force me to. They left the decision up to me. So they said, hey, do you want to go back or do you want to stay? First, you need to look down. I looked down and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's my body. How am I all the way? And they zoomed in like a camera. So like literally like zoomed in, and I'm like, here's the paramedics. Here's my body. Here's the friend I was with way off to the side on their phone. And yeah, they asked me, they said, look at yourself. And I look back up at them. They're like, no, look down again. I have a hard head, and they know that. So they're like, you need to see the proof. You need proof. You always need proof. Because you're going to go back and tell people this. Okay, I'll look again. So I look again. I'm like, so this stuff really does happen? Mind you, when I'm outside of my body, I'm still like the same personality that I was. So I was freaking out, and they're telling me to calm down and everything's okay. So I went back. I look at my body and I go down. I mean, not go down, but I look down, and they're like, so like think about it. Like, do you want to go? Do you want to stay? So I told them I would go back. For the people that asked me what they look like, the one on this side was like a type of beetle creature, and its wings were like out, like the width was really wide. The texture of it was like, it was weird, hard to explain, like not cotton, not polyester type thing. The one on this one was more human than on this side was more human than anything. His arms were like huge. He was so cut, like he just went to the gym. And then he had wings, and his wings were like wide. This one was more like 7 feet, 6 feet. This one was about 8 feet, 6 to 9 feet. Because I asked him, I was like, how tall are you? He's all like, 8, 6 to 9 feet. Just say that. I'm like, okay. So, and the wings alone were like standing up at like 5 feet something, just the wings. Scared I was, but and he had this one had a like red flannel shirt rolled up to his sleeves, and like blue jeans. He kind of reminded me of like one of the, if you watch the show Roseanne, he's kind of like Dan Connor.
Right.
That's what it reminded me of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I went back and I woke up in the hospital a few days later, and they said, oh my gosh, we thought you were gone. You've been gone for days. You hemorrhaged out of I don't know how many bags. They said my head, I don't know what hemorrhaging was, but they just told me I did it. So they said I did it a lot, and they went through a lot of bags.
Of blood, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
a lot of bags. And they said they thought that was it. So after days of sleep or being in a coma, I was awake. And a few days later, I didn't remember anything that happened for days. And then when I exited the hospital and I was wheelchaired out because I couldn't walk, couldn't really talk, because like my head was all messed up. And so I went outside. I was wheelchaired when I'm about a week after being in the hospital. I look up at the sky and the sky was really clear. And that's when I knew that I was like, oh wait, I met angels. Like, that's weird. Oh my gosh, they're my guardian angels. I met my guardian angels. And I put two and two together. And pretty much they just started, that's where my angel communication started coming in, because they started talking to me after that. Like every day, giving me advice. And the first advice they were giving me, I was out of the shower about a day after I was home. And they said, we need you to empty your mind of everything you've ever known. We're going to teach you what you need to know. And literally, the first thing they were teaching me is how to, like, pronunciate my words and get my speech back. And even every now and then, like, my tongue will get stuck when I'm trying to say something. So that's the first thing that they actually taught me. So then from there, it just progressed to more and more communications. It went from like maybe what to wear. They taught me about discernment, about the 7 chakra centers. They taught me about a lot of stuff. And even they helped me heal. I didn't see counselors. I didn't go to more doctor's appointments. I just healed on advice that they gave me.
Wow, that is astounding. I mean, and so are you still hearing them now?
Oh, always. And we don't always agree on everything, but I mostly always apologize to them because they're always right. And I'm stubborn still. That stubborn part never went away.
So
I'm like, all right, you guys are right.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. So how long ago did this happen?
7 years ago.
Oh my goodness. And so tell me about writing your book. Did they help you write the book, or how did that come about?
My goodness. They told me, okay, this one on my left side says you need to write a book. And this one on my left side, I kind of had a bone to pick with him for like the first few months that I had communications with him, because he was mean. Like, he seemed like stern, but I needed that. And that's what he told me. And he really loves me. So we got closer and closer. And now I find myself talking to this one more than to this one. It's weird.
And do they have names?
I don't want to know their names.
Oh, okay.
I told them I don't want to know their names until I see them again. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so my book, I'm like, I need to write a book, because I was doing YouTube videos. Like, you know what? YouTube is cool. That's good. Like, that's good. Facebook groups, that's good. But you need a book. People read. I'm like, I don't know the first thing about books. I don't even read. I barely made it through school. What are you talking about? Like, you need a book. We're going to get you help. And that's where I met my friend, who I didn't know would be my editor for my book. And I'm like, I don't even know how to start this. They're like, just write your life story from what you can think of from when you were born up until now. I'm like, no, that's going to take too long. I'm like, oh, I got to work. What are you talking about? I have a job. They're like, you're going to do this. Okay. So I'm like, how do I start it? And they reminded me, this is like advice they gave me. Remember when you were in high school and you used to love doing essays? I'm like, yeah, it was fun. And they're like, remember, what's the first step to an essay? I'm like, a pre-write. They're like, do the pre-write first. The rest will come. And from there, that pre-write went to chapters, and it all just came together.
That is amazing. How cool is that? Yeah. Guardian Angels helping write the book.
Yeah. And when I was typing, I'm just in the zone. Or if I don't have time to type, and I'm out. I have my phone, and I'm just like in my zone, just literally texting on my phone and sending stuff to my editor, sending audios to my editor, saving audios in my own phone, writing in my memo pad. I went through the whole thing.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. So were there stories that you remembered as you were writing the book that came up that you had forgotten about?
Yeah, I have a very good memory, like from even when I was like 4 years old, and I decided to grow up. I'm like, I'm going to grow up today. I'm going to raise myself. And this when I was at 4 years old. So I remembered that, and from then on, I remember like so much stuff that happened in my life. So I just had so much stuff to write, and it's a good thing I have a good memory, because that made a lot of the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so as far as like, with the original story of being put in a dumpster, I mean, how did you hear about that? Or, I mean, do you have any recollection of that?
I do. Actually, in my book, I brought it up. When I was 5 years old, I was visiting my grandma for the weekend. She was mean too, but I was like, Jesus, but whatever. And I was like, Grandma, because my grandma said, "You make me sick. I can't stand you. I wish I would have aborted your mom. That way she wouldn't have had you. That way none of you guys would have been here, like type thing." So I'm like, "Thanks, Grandma." And so I said, "Let me ask you a question." She said, "What?" I'm like, "How come I'm not with my mom?" And she goes, "You're 5. You're old enough to know. She didn't want you. She threw you in the dumpster when you were 6 months." And I was like, see, I guess people felt comfortable with talking to me like an adult, because I already felt like an adult. So I talked to them like one. So I'm just like, keep it real with me. Don't sugarcoat it. Oh, your mom threw you away at 6 months. She didn't want you. Oh, okay. So my mom came to visit every so often. Every few years or whatever, she would come visit, and she would borrow money from my grandma and pay her back. I happened to be here on a weekend when my mom came to pay her back her money. My mom says, "Oh, what's up, Chris?" And she gives me like a little one-arm hug. And then I was like, "How come you didn't want me when I was born?" And then she goes, "I don't know. I just didn't want you, that's all. And I still don't. But you better be happy that I had you. I tried to abort you, but I didn't have the money. So just shut your mouth." I'm like, "Okay, thanks, Mom."
Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine like having that as your childhood, your formative years. I mean, it's a miracle that, you got to the age you did, and then that you committed suicide from all the depression and the rejection, which,
Yeah.
I was adopted as a baby, so I was given away. So it's like I struggled with the abandonment as well. I wasn't put in a dumpster, but at least I went to a loving family, so it just, really breaks my heart to think that you had to.
I guess, and the way they found me was, I guess a lady, a next door neighbor, and this is how I know things happen for a reason. She happened to be taking out her trash,
Right.
and she goes to the local dumpster where I was at, and she hears a baby crying. She picks it up and says, "Oh my God, this is her. I know whose kid this is." Wow. She calls my grandma, which was at church. My grandma's pissed because she has to leave her event to go get me. So then they took my mom. They took my mom to court and whatever. And my mom lost custody, whatever. And she kind of just went away. Nobody heard from her.
Oh my goodness. And then so your grandma didn't raise you then? You were in...
She did up until I was 4. And that's from when I was 6 months till I was 4. But I guess when my mama came around, my mom gave her a nervous breakdown. And she was in the hospital for like a year and a half straight. I remember even going to visit her.
So that's when you went into the foster care?
That's when I went in.
Wow. And then were you in that up through high school?
Until I was about 16, 17. Then I moved out.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Wow. What a story. And so what would you like to share with the listeners just about, you obviously have had a really tough life. And so is there any words of wisdom that you can share with people that are maybe going through a hard time right now?
Yes. You are loved. I promise you. There's someone out there who cares about you. And you might feel like the only one, but take it from me. I did too, but you're loved. Even if it's not from your family, you don't exactly have to be blood to be family. You can have like friends that are family, but there's someone out there that does love you, and you have people that care about you. So people that are suicidal, understand that when you hurt yourself, there are certain people that you hurt as well. So it's like, kind of think about it as, if I was gone, who would like cry about it type thing? Who would wish I was here? I know a lot of suicidal people are struggling with the fact of even saying they're suicidal because of the fact of being judged. But it's okay to talk about it, and it's normal. You're not weak or anything like that.
Yeah, that is such great advice. And for yourself, were there people that you were surprised that were worried and concerned when they found out what happened?
Funny thing is, I struggled with that I had my angels. I knew I had God's source. I knew I had my loved ones in the near-death experience community and stuff like that. But there's certain like personal friends that I knew for years that had no idea about this event until this book came out. I even told my own angels, I don't know about telling them this. I was posting the share link to the link to my book. I'm like, you guys know when I press send, people are gonna know I killed myself. They're gonna judge me. Funny thing is, no one judged me. I got a lot of good responses. Wow. So it's like that's what I'm saying to the suicidal people out there, you never know who actually is concerned about it. Talk to someone.
Wow, that's wonderful. Is it okay if I pull some cards and see what the angels or God has to say, or
Sure.
the universe, whoever's out there listening? Okay, can you hold this mic for me?
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Let's see here. So these are the soul coaching cards, and I pull 3. And I think this topic is fantastic because so many people, I mean, even I've been, I've had suicidal tendencies in my life, when things aren't going right. So I think this is so important for everybody. All right, so the first card is, that's the blockage card. And so the card is breakthrough. And so what I'm getting from the universe is that people feel like they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They don't see that there's any better way of being in this lifetime. They just want to get out, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
That's where you're
That's
blocked.
What I'm saying. Anything
right?
is better than this.
That's
right. That's what I was thinking.
That's right. And I love this card because, as you can see here, for the people that are on YouTube, you can see it's like a woman going through a tunnel and reaching for the light. And so you just feel blocked. You feel like you can't see that, and what's the point of being here, right? Nobody loves you.
Right.
So so the action card is passion, and I feel like that's what you gained by having this experience of killing yourself and not, having your out-of-body experience and coming back, is having the passion in life. You now realize like what you're here to do, and you're here to shine this love on people and tell people about this so that they don't have to go through the pain and suffering that you did. Do you think that's right?
I think that's perfect because the breakthrough is what you just explained. And then the passion, I had this new found passion and purpose to spread love, and I love it. I love it.
That is so cool. And then the outcome card. Oh my gosh, right?
Wow.
Miracles.
Wow.
My whole body is chilling right now because
Wow.
that is what happens, is miracles. And I'm telling you, Chris, from this interview, from all of your YouTube, from your book, I mean, the miracles that you are creating on this earth is just amazing. And here I am, I'm tearing up because I'm just so proud of you and the fact that you had to go through what you went through. But now that you're sharing this message with people, it's so important. And you are so important. I just want to give you a big hug. And it's so wonderful to have you here and to hear this message. So what do you think of that miracles card?
Like I said, I mean, the doctors were like, "You're a miracle. You're here." And
Wow.
they gave me a teddy bear when I left, and they named it Miracle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, see, and you can't make that up. I mean, how did we get that card? Out of the 52 cards, we get this is the outcome card, Miracle, and that's what you were.
Right. Right. So
I love that. Yes.
All 3 are just perfect.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to, get your book, and we'll also have links on the website, but just so people, if they're listening in, how they can get a hold of you.
Okay, well, my book is called Boom, The Life and Times of a Suicide Near-Death Experiencer. It's on Amazon and Kindle. She just said the link will be in the description. Also, Facebook. I'm mostly on Facebook a lot. Just type in Chris space NDE. And also YouTube. Forgot about that one. Yeah, sort of do YouTube videos. And it's No Bad Vibes. That's NOBADVIBES, all lowercase, no spaces, and there's not a space until the 7. It's No Bad Vibes space 7, and that's my YouTube channel.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I so appreciate that you took the time to sit with me today, and I know this message is going to be one of absolute, hope and joy for people that are needing to hear it. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any financial or legal decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Exploring Death. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.